Hello.
There is John. John, good afternoon. How is your day going aside from having to talk to press people who are going to ask you the same five questions?
Well, I've been talking about myself now for about 2 weeks straight. Actually, I've been talking about myself for about 50 years, but that's another story.
Fair. Well, an evening of songs and stories at John Oates featuring Guthrie Trapp is kicking off very shortly. How
Yes.
long was it from going, I want to do this tour to it actually happening? Because wasn't this a COVID-19 postponed kind of trek?
Yeah, in 18, I had an album called Arkansas, and Guthrie
Mhm.
Trapp was part of that. I did it with a band. I called it the Good Road Band from Nashville, and
Mhm.
Guthrie was part of that. And it really, this what we're doing together, the show that we're doing together, the acoustic duo, is really a kind of a stripped down version of what we were doing with the full band. The full band was actually a lot of moving parts, obviously, and a lot more
Mhm.
dynamic. But I've told stories then, but this is really a living room setting where I can really dig in, and the cool thing about it in the ensuing years since well, actually in the last few years, Guthrie has become he's really come into his own as a personality as well.
Mhm.
And so it's not just him sitting there on guitar and me, talking all the time. We actually talk to each other. We relate stories of experiences we had together and how it ties to the music, and everything we play has a connection to us personally. Whether it's a song that we learned, he has a lot of the same influences I do, so we share a lot of that. So we talk about how we are both influenced by people like Doc Watson and things like that, and then we kind of bring we personalize it really basically. So the idea was, as I said earlier, to bring the living room onto the stage, and that's what we're trying to do.
Sure. Well, can you take a compliment? Like, can I give you a compliment, or are you one of those guys that goes,
I'd love one. I'd love one. Make my day.
okay, so the tour that you're describing with Guthrie is, as you described it, a living room tour. It's intimate, you're doing the hits, but you're
Right.
also improvising stories and playing some lesser known stuff. So that's
Right.
one facet of you. When you're doing the day gig in Hall and Oates, it's arenas and amphitheaters and huge headlining gigs.
Right.
Then prior to this, you talked about the band deal that you were doing, which is more theaters or the largest clubs you've ever been to.
Right.
And if we go decades back, there was that cool Motown-y show that you did with choreography. And
Oh, with
then
Daryl at the Apollo. Yeah, sure.
and then if we go a couple of years ago, I really liked that co-writers album that you did that had Lose It in Louisiana. So
Right.
you seem like somebody that's always looking to challenge themselves and try new things. That's the impression I'm getting.
Well, I appreciate you picking up on that because it's true. Yeah, I mean, I do. I really want to stretch. I feel like, you know, I'm very, very respectful and I understand, that the success I've had with Daryl over the years has given me the opportunity to do things that I think a lot of artists would love to be able to do.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, First of all, it's unique that Daryl and I have had that success, but yet still can maintain our individual personalities. That in itself is a win. But after that, I've been, like I said, that platform has enabled me to try things and not be, totally, kind of motivated by making a lot of money. And I've done very well for myself over the years,
Yeah.
and it's allowed me to be purely creative, which is really, as I said, for any artist or any creative person, that's probably that's the gold. That's the golden fleece for that. So I'm here again. I don't want to squander that opportunity. I want to make the most of it, and it's exciting. Plus, I think it keeps me grounded. It's cool to drive around in a van and play small venues.
Yeah.
It's also really cool to fly in private planes and play Madison Square Garden.
Pros and cons.
It's okay, but they're both really good.
Yeah. Well, another innovation that you had in your career, I remember seeing 10, 12 years ago through your old publisher. I used to know a lot of folks at Primary Wave before they were a juggernaut buying up everyone's catalog ever. They
Right.
had floated out a cartoon called J Stash. Was
Oh
that just a
boy.
teaser trailer thing, or were actual episodes made of that?
No, it never got past the pilot, I guess you'd call it. That actually came from the collective minds of Primary Wave. Those guys, they wanted to try to promote the catalog, and they thought it would be a novel and kind of quirky way to do it, and it was pretty cool actually. It never got traction. It's kind of died on the vine, but it was fun for a while, and it was fun kind of working with them on that.
Was it Dave Attell who was voicing your mustache?
You got it right. You man, you've done your homework. You're good.
Well, it's
Yeah.
being one of those people who reads the liner notes. You're in the minority of music fans who look to entertainment as more than entertainment. But, you're one of those people that I've been listening to much more of my life than not. So it's really cool to see you in this acoustic-y format. So I assume there's no fear in being like 3 feet from the audience in this.
I have been on stage since I've been a baby, literally. I have a recording of myself singing nursery rhymes at 4 years old in a Coney Island amusement park, record booth. And literally, I was in talent shows when I was a little kid. My mom was a bit of a stage mom. So I've lived my whole life in front of people on stage. So I have I am as comfortable on stage as I am anywhere else.
Well, a lot of artists, once they get to that arena amphitheater level, they're used to, okay, the monitor guy is there, my guitar tech is there, and they can't do the scale down thing. They're just not used to it anymore. So it's interesting to see that you're kind of like, where's the guitar? I'll play.
Well, yeah, I mean, I like that. As I said, I think I'm probably repeating myself, but I said it's grounding for me. It really is. It's 180 degrees from what I do with Daryl, and that's actually why I like it so much. There's maybe it's this middle class. I had a kind of lower middle class upbringing, and maybe it's that kind of hard work ethic that I've carried over in my life. And I don't, like I said, I like the big perks and, and all the, that kind of stuff is fantastic. But there's also a thing about being a working musician that really appeals to me.
Are you the kind of musician who, when they're not performing or playing, is still listening to music and hanging out with musicians? Or do you kind of shut off and you go, that's my career, this is my life?
Oh no, especially here in Nashville. I mean, I just got a person just got a hold of me and said, "Hey, come on down to the club Monday night and sit in." I will do that whenever I can, especially with good friends and people I really respect, and I know it's going to be a fun thing. The Nashville music community is so great, so welcoming, and especially the Americana community, which is really what I'm more a part of. I'm not much in the contemporary country world. That's a whole other thing. I don't know if you watch the Country Music Awards the other night, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's a whole other world.
It's Hollywood with a fake twang. If I can editorialize, you didn't say that.
You said it. I didn't say that. You did. Don't forget, I still live here.
Yeah, well, I would say 20 years ago, Nashville was still Country Music USA, but all the hair metal people seem to have moved to Vegas or Nashville. And every genre seems to be there. When did you get there? Because I remember hearing that you were an Aspen guy.
Yeah, well, in the late 80s, we had I had a lot of personal changes, like a divorce and things like that. Plus, Daryl and I lost our longtime manager, Tommy Mottola. He went on to greener pastures by, becoming the president of the
Columbia. Yeah.
President of the universe, right?
Yeah.
So it was kind of a very low time for me, and to kind of survive through that, I did some drastic things. I basically sold everything I owned. I had had a house in Connecticut and an apartment in New York and cars and all that stuff. And I just basically sold everything, and I moved into my little condo in Aspen, Colorado, and I started over again. And it was the best thing I ever did. It was one of those things that I guess was necessary for me at that moment. Mm-hmm. And it really did change my life. I met my future wife, had a kid, built a house, and really dropped out of music for almost the entire decade of the 90s. Did one album with Daryl in '96, but other than that, that was it. And it was great. And really, that's when I started going to Nashville in the late '90s. Was working with a guy who had some Nashville connections, and he just sensed, he said, man, you really need to come to Nashville and plug into what's going on. And, Nashville of the '90s was nothing like it is today.
Yeah.
It was definitely more of a small, country, southern, small city. And I went there and I started making friends. And I realized that, that, man, this, there was people there with a lot of the same sensibility as me, a lot of the same influences as me growing up, which is actually, what Guthrie and I are showcasing in this show.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that rootsy American early rock, early R&B, folk, blues, Delta blues, all that stuff. And I began to really become part of the Americana community, and I made a lot of friends, and we moved there full time around 2009 or 10. So we've been there quite a while now.
It's weird of any place that you chose Aspen, because that's kind of on the list of places that maybe might have been cheaper to live in 20, 30 years ago, but now is more expensive than New York. It's kind of there with Park City, Utah. I think James Hetfield from Metallica is now an Aspen guy, that kind of thing.
Really? Well, I'll tell you what, during COVID, the real estate prices in Aspen, they didn't skyrocket. They went to beyond the that new telescope that they just put up there, somewhere out there in light years. I mean, it's crazy. It's really crazy. But we've got our own little ranch out there, and we've had it. We bought the property in the early '90s, built a house, and so for us, and we still have it, and it's great, and it's still our sanctuary. Yeah.
Well, going back a little bit with Nashville and the collaborative nature and all that. A couple days ago, I interviewed Shooter Jennings, who Waylon's kid, who's forged a career as a top Americana producer. And he had a new album with a huge rapper named Yellow Wolf. I think it's under the name Sometimes Why. And that was a surprising collaboration to me, because that's a predominantly hip hop guy with an Americana guy. And you know what? It sounds like rock. In your case, you inspired a lot of R&B and classic soul artists. Have there been a lot of opportunities or inquiries for you to move into that world at all with collaborations?
Not that much, to be honest with you. I wouldn't turn it down if it was the right situation. I just, I go with my gut. I try to, I collaborate with people that I think that I can, not only do I feel comfortable with, but I can bring something to the table. I wouldn't just collaborate with someone just to, I mean, sure, to try an experiment, sure, why not?
To fulfill a publishing deal option.
No, that wouldn't, that wouldn't work for me. I mean, you have to really, you have to like, and you have to really feel simpatico, I guess, with the people you're working with.
But in your case, writing with Icehouse, and you did have success outside of Hall & Oates writing for other artists. That's where I was going with that.
Yeah, a little bit. We have had a few. And I've done some really great collaborations here in Nashville for my solo work, as you said, with that, the Good Road to Follow album. That was a real. I wanted to step into the personal lives and the professional, creative lives of some people I really admired. People like Vince Gill and Ryan Tedder and and all sorts of people, and that was a really great experience, because it was every recording session was totally unique, and and I did get a chance to really, and what I found, almost universally, I found that it was very similar to kind of what I was doing anyway. It wasn't that dissimilar. The only one that was really different was Ryan Tedder. that songwriting experience was a whole different thing. He's amazing, and but I had never had any. I'll tell you a quick story of how it happened, because he and I had reached out to him. We had done he invited me to do to sit in and be a special guest on a One Republic charity show in Denver. And we hung out, and I said, hey, you want to try cutting a single, write a song, cut a single. He said, yeah, we'll do it. We should do it. And so, we kind of bounced back and forth, trying to get it together, find a mutual agreeable time. And we finally did. So I went to his house in Denver. He was living in Denver at the time, and he had a recording studio in the basement. And I went there. And when I got to the house, he said, man, look, he goes, I got about 2.5 hours. I said, all right, well, let's see what happens. So we went down to the studio, we talked a little bit, and he said, if we're going to do something, we got to do something completely different than anything you've ever done. I said, okay, sounds good. And so with that, he literally turned his back to me, put headphones on, and he was at the console with Pro Tools screen in front, and I was sitting behind him. So, he began programming, and I could see the Pro Tools tracks appearing in different colors. If you're familiar with Pro Tools,
yes, sir.
Okay. And really fast too. Obviously he's pretty
yeah
cool.
he's a master. I mean, to clarify, he cut his teeth, I think, working on Tupac production before he started cutting hits for people.
Right. So I'm sitting there watching this, but I can't hear anything, nothing. So I have no idea what he's doing. I don't know what keys in, tempo, style, nothing. So I'm just sitting there thinking, well, this is weird. Okay, so I had my my laptop, and I had this title called Stone Cold Love. And I started writing lyrics. I just wrote lyrics, and I just typed lyrics as fast as I could. I stream of consciousness, whatever came into my head. And then after about literally almost a long time, it seemed, about 45 minutes or so, he just turned around, took his headphones off, and he said, here, man, check this out. And he cranked up the volume and played this slamming track. And it was like a, kind of like a, Black Keys kind of thing, whatever it was. And I was like, okay. I said, well, I got this. And I turned my laptop around. He goes, that's awesome. Let's do it. And he grabbed a mic. I grabbed a mic. He was looking at my lyrics. I was looking at my lyrics. He started singing a little bit. I started singing, and we pulled this thing together. And literally in 2.5 hours, it was pretty much recorded. And then he went, I got to go. And I said, I'd like to put a guitar on it. He goes, no problem, put a guitar on it. And he sent his engineer down. He disappeared. I stayed there for another hour or so, put some guitar parts on it, and that was it. And that was the song. And then I took it back to Nashville, and I got a hold of him. I said, hey, do you want to mix this thing? He goes, I don't have time. And I said, okay, I'll mix it. He goes, great, you mix it. So I sent it to him. He said, that's awesome. And that was the record.
Wow.
Very unusual. That was the most unusual session I've ever had.
Yeah, I've heard from managing some people who've done the co-writing thing. I've heard everything from the person's in the room and they're just looking at their phone. They still lay claim to 50% or so of the publishing. You hear those stories. This sounds like the most hands-on, well-produced thing that hasn't seen the light of day possible.
Yeah, it's just, it's definitely an outlier on the Good Road to Follow album, for sure.
For sure. Well, hope to eventually hear that. Do you have time for 3 quick topics? And if the answers to these are no, we move to the next one?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. Did you ever perform We Are the World in anything live, in any context? Was there a Grammy performance or anything where you ever performed it?
Not that, if there was, I wasn't there.
So when I was talking about all the collaborations that you did, I think maybe that set the bar too high as to what a collaboration would be with high profile people.
Yeah, pretty much.
Next one is, I'm dialing in from Long Island, New York. You've played at Jones Beach 1 trillion times. You've played at Nassau Coliseum. Looking at your early tour routing, you played at a venue here in Lido Beach called the Malibu Beach Club in 1980. Do you remember anything at all about Long Beach, Long Island, New York?
Malibu Beach Club. You know what? I have to be honest with you. I do not remember that. I remember playing my father's place.
Sure.
Out in Hempstead, I think it was. Remember playing, in fact, we played my father's place one time and Andy Kaufman opened for us. Yes. Yes. Before he got on Saturday Night Live and before he you know, before anybody even really knew him. Yeah, he opened for us at my father's place. It was amazing. And no one knew him. No one had any idea. And he did that Mighty Mouse thing with the record player. And I remember watching it and I was like, wow. I said, this guy's out there. And there you go.
Wow. That, for anyone who ever questioned whether Hall & Oates were in with alternative culture, that alone says it.
Little known fact.
And the last thing I'm curious about is, for a book that I'm slowly putting together on David Lee Roth, I remember reading that Hall & Oates and Van Halen shared some crew members at certain points in time. Do you remember which crew members those were, or under what context? Because there was also rumors that Darryl was up for consideration as replacing Roth.
Oh, that part I couldn't tell you. We shared our lighting director, Steve Cohen, the security guy. What was his name? Shoot.
Was that Eddie Anderson?
Eddie Anderson. Oh, of course, Eddie Anderson, the legend. Yeah, Eddie Anderson, and a few of tech people. But that was it. It wasn't a lot. It was really kind of cool because it just seemed, and I guess it just happened naturally. There was no planning. Whenever they would tour, we weren't touring, and then they would stop and we would start. And it wasn't, you know, I don't think anyone, you know, organized that. It just happened to work out really well.
That sounds like the relationship where Kiss and Alice Cooper had the same drummer, Eric Singer, for a while. It's like, are you guys going on tour? No, cool, we got him.
Yeah, right.
So those were the crew members. Well, the bottom line is this: I'm excited to see the Strip Town tour. Even if you're playing with the band, excited to see that. Hope the Tedder collaboration eventually comes out. But
oh wait, you know, by the way, it's out. I mean, it never came out as a single, but it's on the Good Road to Follow album. It's on there. It's called Stone Cold Love. It's on there.
I need to re-listen to that album because in Louisiana, that I've listened to 500 times.
Yeah, well, that's a great collaboration with Craig Wiseman, one of the great Nashville songwriters. But yeah, Stone Cold Love's on the Good Road to Follow.
Now I know. Well, John, thank you for the many years of great music, and looking forward to whatever is next in whatever form it is.
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate you doing your homework. That was a great interview.
My pleasure, man. Have a great rest of the day.
Paltrocast.